Now, here's a short story which backs up that guys not only need to be on the lookout and careful with the single MOMs, they got to watch out for the just regular single gals that don't have any kids, especially if you, as a man, have your own child. Because a lot of times these gals will come in and they're going to be the stepmother, and it turns out, well, the wicked stepmother stereotype is quite accurate. That's why so many fairy tales and stories were written about them. And they may get together with you and act like they like your kid, but they really can't stand your kid, and it's going to be a nightmare for them. You must always watch out for that. And in this story here, this guy dodges a big one with regards to the gal he was going to marry when his friend, female friend, lets him know what was going on with the recording. Title: Am I the a-hole for recording my friend's fiancée at her bachelorette party and playing the recording for him? Says here, I was invited to the bachelorette party for my friend's fiancée. It was over the long weekend at a vacation rental on the beach. There was booze, a hot tub, great food. It was definitely a hit. At one point, I was on the deck looking at the ocean, and the bride was drunk in the hot tub with two of her friends. She said she felt more relaxed than she had in a while. I assumed she was referring to the wedding planning. One of her friends asked if she was having trouble with the little monster, and she said no, that he was manageable for now. At that point, I realized they were talking about my friend's son, and I took out my phone and started recording the conversation. This story kind of proves why it's ideal that every guy has a female friend. And I want to point out, I have little use for female friends, but on occasion, they definitely prove useful, certainly in a situation like this that can, absolutely they got your back. This is all, we can all hope for this. And they can obviously screen accurately other gals, no ill intention, and obviously for things like this. Well, the bride's friend said horrible stuff about my friend's son, and the bride responded positively to everything, laughing and agreeing. Then she said that it was too bad he wasn't old enough to send to military school. I stopped recording when their topic changed. I don't think they even realized I was close enough to hear them. So this dude is marrying this chick, and she obviously acts like, okay, I like the kid, or I'm tolerating him. But meanwhile, she's talking trash about him. And literally, too bad he's not old enough, I'll send him to military school. You guys, you can't marry someone like this. It's going to make it a horrible situation for your kid, whether it's a boy or a girl. Yeah. And what if this guy married her not knowing about this? Well, thank God this chick was here to record this. When we got back, I asked to meet with my friend, and I played him the recording. He was quiet while he listened. After the recording was finished, he asked me to send it to him, which I did. Then he asked me to delete it, which I said I would do, but haven't yet. I feel like an a-hole for interfering. I really do. However, I'm worried about my friend's son. Depending on what my friend does, I might need to send his recording to the poor boy's family. I feel like I've overstepped, but what else can I do? Was I being the a-hole? No, you weren't at all. You were helping your friend. And before I continue on how this ends, and I want to point something out. A lot of you are probably thinking, like I was at first, oh, she's probably just in love with this guy. What if she's sabotaging things because she wants to be with him? Well, you find out in the comment section, she is a lesbian. And how they're friends, I don't know. But regardless, so there's no romantic things going on here. Okay, and she has the recording. And it wasn't an AI thing. She actually recorded them saying this about his son. So no, she's not the a-hole. She's helping him. And that's why, I'm sure many of you guys have seen people you cared about get in bad relationships. And you're kind of like, do I say something? Because you're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. If you say something to your friend about someone they're with even with good evidence, they can lash out on you because you're trashing their romance, their relationship. On the other hand, if you don't say anything and they stay with that individual and all hell breaks loose, then they get hurt. But no, she's not the a-hole for doing that. Now the update. She says, yesterday, Friday afternoon, I got a text from my friend asking me to block his fiance's phone number. Uh-oh. I was a bit thrown off by the request and asked if everything was okay. He said he couldn't talk right now and asked me to please just block the phone number. So I blocked the number. I have this weird glitch on my Android Auto where if a blocked number calls me, it shows up in my recent calls as a missed call on my car screen, even though on my actual phone it doesn't ring at all. Well, later on that day, I was driving and saw a ton of missed calls from her. There were so many exceeding what my car will show me, I kept the number blocked. Well, I guess the fiance connected the dots where it came from. But yeah, she's probably calling and yelling and screaming and all that. Look, and by the way, I guarantee you, when he confronts her about this, I guarantee she'd say, I was drunk. I was drunk, and that's just what girls do, and blamed it on her friends and all that type of thing. It says here, later my friend's best friend, who was supposed to be the best man, called me and asked me if I'd heard from our friend. I said yes, and I asked why. He sent me a screenshot from the fiance's Facebook talking about how people show their true colors and saying she was newly single. I tried to call my friend, but he didn't answer. So already, they're done. And she's making out to be his fault. People show you their true colors. And of course, given this day and age, nothing happens unless you post on social media for much of attention. And I like the vague thing of how people show you the true colors. And people will do these vague posts being coy, hoping that people will comment, what's wrong? What's wrong? I'm sure many of you guys have seen this crap. Never fall for that. Well, tonight I finally heard back from my friend. The long and short of it is that he asked her about how she feels about his son. She said he's adorable and sweet. My friend then played her the recording, and she asked where he got it. He refused to tell her, saying it shouldn't matter. She immediately guessed it was me. He refused to confirm that. She got angry that he wouldn't tell her that I recorded her conversation and said she can't trust him anymore. She called off the wedding. Not a great update, but since so many of you were so invested, I thought you'd want to know. So before I read more information from the comments section, because she responds to questions, notice he confronts her about this. She lies. Oh, he's adorable and all that crap. He plays a recording. And instead of like coming clean or apologizing or something, immediately, who sent you that? And then freaks out. And then this whole thing like, oh, well, I can't trust you anymore, and I'm calling off the wedding. So she can have control of the situation because inevitably he was going to call off the wedding, you know? But holy crap. But this dude dodged a big one here. Thank God to this friend. And again, I've said this a lot of times. Call me an asshole, I don't care. But just for me, I have very little use for female friends. Pretty much, unless I'm banging, I'm not hanging out with them. I have ones I'm acquainted with and stuff like that. But I think you get my point. There's no hanging out with and spending time with them. But goddamn, it is useful, at least to have one that absolutely there's no conflict of interest, none of those things like that. She's not going to sabotage things because she's in love with you, and can tell you if some bullshit's going on with somebody you're involved with. That certainly is useful, and it helped this guy out. And again, some people could say maybe she was jealous that he would no longer be there for her all the time. Who knows? But I think this is pretty accurate. She was doing this to help her friend. There's no, conflict of interest or other ulterior motives here. But holy crap! But now she blames it on this fiance blames it on this guy. He's the bad guy here. Crazy. But this guy dodged a big one. So for you single dads out there, be careful. Okay, they can act all sweet and everything like that with your kid. Oh, he's so great, and you find out they hate the stepmom hates his guts, and it makes life a living hell. I'm sure some guys out there had stepmothers that were wicked and awful to them, but the dad was so weak and blind and pussy whipped he wouldn't do anything about it, which he would deserve an ass kicking for. So he does a big one. Now I'm going to read some comments here. Now one of the guy asked, what was the recording? You never mentioned what she said to make him react such like that. We only have half the story. And she says, one of the bride's friends said she wouldn't be able to put up with such a gross kid, to which the bride laughed and agreed it was difficult. Another asked her if she ever wishes he wouldn't come up when he always jumping in the water. She said no, but she also laughed. And I don't think laughter was an acceptable response to such a horrible comment. Another friend said if her son had stripped naked in public, she would slap him, to which the bride said that she was too shocked to react. My friend's son is 2 years old and sometimes tries to take his clothes off outside because of summer because it's been so hot. I'm assuming they were referring to such an event. Okay, he's 2 years old, and 2-year-olds are going to act like 2-year-olds and sometimes stripping naked because he's too hot. I mean, yeah, it's a lot, but still. Clearly she's with this guy not because she loves him, or loves the kid, what he can provide to her. Another one says, so she broke it off since he would not tell her. Did she address what she said in the video? This is crazy, let me know. And the chick writing the story says, he didn't give me a word-for-word rundown of their conversation, but from what he told me, once the topic shifted to her wanting to know who recorded her, it never went back to what she said. It sounds a bit like Darvo. Deny, attack, reverse, victim, and offend. And she says, yeah, it's weird. I didn't know what to expect, but it wasn't this. I thought maybe she would say she was taken out of context or something like that, but shifting the topic completely from the son to the recording, that I didn't anticipate. Well, she's a bitch. Instead of her actually owning up to her being a jerk and saying things about the son and all that, she decides to blame the person recording the conversation and say she can't trust this guy. I'm calling off the wedding, all dramatic like. But anyhow, this guy dodged a big one. So all you fathers out there that have a kid and you're divorced or split up, whatever, and you're a single dad, be very careful. You got to do your homework. You got to have spies everywhere to see what she really thinks about your kid before committing. Because you marry someone that really doesn't like your kid, and he's going to make your life a living hell. It's your kid. You got to take care of your kid. So there you go.